versus not. And I think the actors, again, in this circumstances, maybe appreciate trying to keep as much spontaneity as possible. To do it and then not take it so serious. I mean, take it as because like for me, drawing, my background is like, and so I use it as a thought process. It's a way actually for me to get something that's inside out of your from inside of you to the outside and make it as an image or as a, but then it's a symbol for a thought, really, and that's really all it is. It's not meant to be this hardcore make it look exactly like this, because then it's over. Found too, as the years have gone on, that the storyboards, when you present them to people, there seems to be more literal people out there, because there's a rare, like, that's what I like about Colleen Atwood, the costume designer. If I do a sketch, she doesn't take it literally. She gets what the intent of it is, and then takes it a lot further and does, brings it into dimensional. I mean, I had that relationship with Rick Heinrichs, when I first started in film, where he would do a sculpture of a drawing I would do. He got, he could actually make it pretty literal, but I mean, he got that this is this is a flat, very flat drawing, and I'm going to do a dimensional thing. But he got out of it what he needed and didn't take it literally. And so I try to find people like that get the spirit of what you're trying to do, but don't, that aren't too literal. Artists, so you like to see, part of the energy is them surprising you. It's a equal level of surprise. You want to get back and forth on a daily basis. I do anyway, because it's an unknown medium. That's what, you sit in an office, if everybody knew what a hit movie is, every movie would be a hit movie. There is an unknown quality to the whole process. So when you're working with other artists, it's like you want to give it enough of a framework to where they get it, but at the same time let them surprise you, and because that's what it's all about. That's the energy of a film. It's like you're not just making a painting. That's you're doing on your own. You've got a whole big group of amazing people, some of them, and that's what you want to see. Trona, California. We picked it because it was a place that had, it reminded me of those magic rocks that you could buy in the back of a comic book, and grow them. We're trying to find slightly otherworldly places, and actually had to find them as close to Los Angeles as we could. So, this was definitely, and one of our major locations. Sort of related to it because it sort of felt, I try to find some similarity to how I'm feeling to any character, and I thought, as I sort of got into it, I started thinking, well, here's a guy who doesn't really want to be here. He's trying to get out. He's got this huge responsibility that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then he kind of has to finally end up dealing with it. And that's sort of, I kind of related that to making a movie or making this movie somehow. You try to find connective tissue that with every character, no matter which one it is. Script, with the humans there was a lot more dialogue, and it just never felt really right. I don't know, it never felt, it felt like a little went a long way. And with her character, I just sort of pulled it back to more looks. It felt, again, more real to me. Didn't want her to be, wanted that sort of rivalry, that sort of thing to be a little, again, much more understated. It felt more real to me. Having too much human dialogue just seemed, even though it was in the script to begin with that they spoke, and I didn't, mind that so much. It's just, it needed a simplicity that I felt made it a little bit more real. And again, it just wasn't quite so, it was more all meant to be unrequited and sort of, basically done through more looks and not dialogue. Impression of it was, well, it's like, people shouldn't speak. I mean, because that's what this is. It's part of this. Although I understood from the studio point of view what they were talking about, because once you make it an issue, in the first movie, that's sort of the main issue. So you're kind of remaking that first movie in a certain way. But I did end up taking out a lot of dialogue, of human dialogue, just because it didn't. The more they talked, that wasn't what it's about either. It felt more like it just should be more of a. That shouldn't be the thrust of the issue. It's more, to me, I sort of looked at it more like this. If the first movie, like I said, was complete reversal, here we're coming in a culture where, the humans aren't completely, their self-esteem isn't fully beaten out of them. I mean, given several more hundreds or thousands of years, they would get to that point where they wouldn't speak, and the apes would probably lose some of their ape-like qualities and become like they were more in the first film. So I just sort of treated the whole thing more like we're in this sort of fragmented, both sides of the cultures are fragmented and at an earlier, more fragile time in their history. We're coming in at a different point in their culture than from the first film. It's such a movie of its time. It was and this time things are so much more fragmented that I just felt that this sort of just represented that more. I mean, it's not as clear in that way as like the first film, because again, that first film has a simplicity and a clarity to those issues and themes that are, easy to identify. But Rod Serling, so therefore it is like a weird expanded Twilight Zone, and it had sort of simplicity of its themes and kind of absurdity and seriousness. I mean, it's very much, again, and it worked of that time, and him writing it seemed, there were reasons why it sort of came across that way, I think. As Richard Zanuck said, there's no way you can either do that movie or top that ending or do that ending. So, we realized that early on, that's why I sort of went back to the ultimate source of the overall material, the book and the other movies, and then just had a weird image in my mind, and so we just decided that we couldn't do that, so we did other thing, which I felt there's something about an image of apes in a completely juxtaposed, so it really is apes as humans kind of juxtaposition. That was an aspect of it, and then going back to the overall circular motion to the material, things that aren't in the movie but are kind of been thought about, because it's like you kind of have to have your own big picture of the circular thing, otherwise I couldn't really do it. Be confusing to people, are like, what the hell, what was that, or what's happening, this or that. I mean, you have to think. I had to think about it and make sure, at least for myself, I had point A to B to C. I tried to watch like what you put in and what you don't put, because sometimes you put in too much, it says too much, and I always held back on this one because I just felt like, again, and this has to do with my own nature, again, about literal people. I have a tendency to really actually maybe want to go too far in that direction, but it's hard for me to fully that is, talking apes, for God's sakes, after all, when you boil it down. As much as we tried to treat it seriously and not enter into campiness, which, on a daily constant reminder, here's people dressed up like cavemen, and here's apes talking, so the analysis kind of starts to go out the window pretty quick. The 60s, I mean, you can't, it's like, even if you did it exactly, I don't know, it's a different time, and somehow it just seems a little more absurd somehow. And I don't know, when we try not to do anything that really crossed over that line, but again, I'm not sure what that line really is exactly. about it, again, there are things about it that they're